guys that lose arms or legs, get cut up, shot up. Was I prepared for that? No, I wasn't prepared for that at all.
This video contains mature themes. Watch with discretion.
Amidst the chaos and brutality of the Vietnam War, there were certain roles that were considered particularly perilous and demanding. These were the deadliest jobs of the war. 1. The tunnel rat and tunnel warfare. During the Vietnam War, Viet Cong, VC, and North Vietnamese Army NVA used extensive underground tunnels. These subterranean complexes featured living quarters, medical facilities, kitchens, and supply depots.
Underground, the enemy, 6,000 Viet Cong, their soldiers, their babies, even their surgeons. 150 miles of tunnels on 3 levels.
Tunnel warfare was a unique and dangerous aspect of the conflict, and the soldiers who conducted underground combat were known as tunnel rats. Tunnel rats were small, specially trained infantry soldiers who were tasked with exploring the elaborate network of tunnels. Tunnel rats were armed with a flashlight, a knife, and a pistol, but usually hand-to-hand combat was favored over firepower.
You shoot a 45 in there. I mean, you shoot anything in there. Even though it's dirt, you're still gonna have echo. The light from the flash of the firearm gonna blind you unless you turn your head.
One American soldier said it's like going to somebody else's house and trying to find them in their own house. They know their way around, but you have no idea where they are.
The conditions were unthinkable, and the threats were endless. The tight spaces could induce claustrophobia. The enemy could be hiding around every corner. There were also tripwires attached to grenades and various other deadly traps.
Because you got bamboo sticks filled with human waste, and you get stuck with that, you get gangrene right away. I almost lost my feet. The flesh came off every time I pull off my sock.
The air was stagnant and moist. Mice and insects scurried alongside you. Even snakes could be the end of you in the dark tunnels. Corpses of American soldiers would often be hidden in the tunnels, contributing a foul stench, and missions could last hours in an attempt to gather intelligence or supplies.
You can hear your blood going through your veins, like swooshing with pressure. And trying to calm all that down. All you want to hear is nothing.
2. Viet Cong infiltrators. During the Vietnam War, the term Viet Cong infiltrators referred to individuals who were part of a communist guerrilla organization. The Viet Cong infiltrators were typically local villagers or individuals from South Vietnam who had joined the NLF's ranks. They were skilled at blending into the civilian population and often operated clandestinely, making it challenging for the US and South Vietnamese forces to identify and neutralize them.
It all amounts to the most ambitious series of communist attacks yet mounted, spreading violence into at least 10 provincial capitals, plus American air bases and civilian installations stretching the entire length of the country.
On January 31st, 1968, during the Tet Offensive of the Vietnam War, a group of Viet Cong infiltrators launched an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, now Ho Chi Minh City, South Vietnam. In the early hours of the morning, a team of Viet Cong infiltrators disguised in civilian clothing and carrying concealed weapons managed to breach the embassy's compound's perimeter. The attackers exploited the surprise element, as the Tet holiday usually saw a reduction in military activities. Marine security guards stationed at the embassy quickly responded to the attack, engaging in a fierce firefight with the infiltrators. The battle raged for several hours.
A tremendous explosion in the compound. That's the fear here, that these Viet Cong infiltrators will blow the embassy before they die.
The embassy grounds had barely been declared secure when press and reporters swarmed the grounds, taking pictures of wounded American officials and what seemed like dead Vietnamese civilians. The event sent shockwaves throughout the United States and raised serious doubts about the U.S. government's progress in the war effort. It also contributed to a shift in public opinion against the war and intensified calls for the de-escalation and withdrawal. The Viet Cong infiltrators knew it was a suicide mission, but destabilizing the American war effort was their real aim.
We've got to get some order back in the United States because we're fighting a war in South Vietnam, and yet we can't keep the peace in our own country.
The Tet Offensive and the attack on the U.S. Embassy marked a significant turning point in the Vietnam War, leading to increased anti-war sentiment in the United States and eventually influencing decisions to scale down American involvement in the conflict. 3. The Agent Orange sprayer. During the Vietnam War, the American military was very conscious of the enemy's ability to camouflage in the dense jungle. Bulldozing or bombing sections of jungle was expensive, so chemical herbicides became a popular defoliating option. Agent Orange was a highly toxic chemical herbicide that was extensively used between 1962 and 1971. It was one of the several rainbow herbicides.
There were also agents blue, pink, green, purple, and white, but orange was the big one.
In addition to denying cover for the enemy, the herbicidal warfare would also poison the food and the soil that it grew in. Approximately 20 million gallons over a 9-year period was spread across the Southeast Asian jungles and fields. It could be manually sprayed on the ground, but was usually deployed by aircraft.
This kind of scorched earth fighting, clearing the land of anything the enemy could use, is an ancient military tactic. But using chemicals to do that was a pretty recent invention.
Agent Orange became one of the most controversial acts of the war, and not only for its environmental impacts. Agent Orange contains dioxin, a known carcinogenic. Because of this, many veterans who were directly exposed to the herbicide and the local Vietnamese population suffered from various health issues, including skin disorders, respiratory problems, cancers, birth defects, and other long-term health effects.
VA released an updated list of presumptive conditions related to Agent Orange exposure. These conditions are Parkinsonism, bladder cancer, and hypothyroidism.
The after effects of Agent Orange on the Vietnamese population is still devastating and seriously overlooked.
This is a child whose parents were affected by Agent Orange.
He's blind.
Both governments have undertaken efforts to address the health and environmental consequences of the herbicide, although the lasting impact on the affected individuals and the environment is still felt to this day. 4. Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol. Long Range Reconnaissance Patrols, or LRPs, played a crucial role in gathering intelligence and conducting reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. They were small, highly trained, and self-sufficient unit of soldiers tasked with operating deep within enemy territory to gather information, monitor enemy movements, and provide valuable intelligence. LRPs identified high-value enemy targets, such as enemy leaders or key infrastructure that could be targeted by airstrikes or ground operations.
Once we found them, we didn't have to engage them. We'd call the air mobile in to engage any bad guys.
Another task was pathfinding. LRPs scouted and marked safe routes for larger units, especially in areas with dense vegetation, rugged terrain, or enemy booby traps. Being formed of 4 to 6 soldiers and sometimes operating up to a week at a time, LRPs faced significant risks. They had to rely on stealth, evasion, ingenuity, and survival skills to remain undetected.
I was armed to the hilt. I didn't have a machine gun, but I had an M16, and we always had a grenade launcher, and we'd have claymore mines we took with us, and we'd set those out at our night locations.
Enemy snatch operations for interrogation could also be carried out, but support was limited, so if a medevac was needed, it would be under enemy fire.
Generally, their rules of engagement are not to fire unless fired upon. Keep yourself very, very quiet, just look. Sometimes look and call in airstrikes.
Thanks for watching this episode of History 101. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this.